Remember Fallout 3? Back in the day, this was the game that I was sinking hundreds of hours in on the Xbox 360. This was my first introduction to the Fallout universe, and I was absolutely in love with the world and its style. But these days, this game is an absolute nightmare to get working on a modern PC, with stuttering, lack of modern comforts, and of course crashing. A hell of a lot of crashing. I therefore revitalized this game, bringing it back to life via modding and tinkering it to get the most definitive experience possible. So here's the journey on how I did it and how you can do it too. Let's renew Fallout 3. This video is sponsored by Instant Gaming, but more on that later. Modding any Bethesda game can be extremely daunting, so my approach here was to find the most simple and easy way to get this game working, because as much as I love modding games, I know many of you probably don't want to sit there for hours upon hours adding mods manually. This is why I think Wabbajack was the way to go. If you don't know, Wabbajack is basically a storefront for complete mod lists for games, where everything is done for you. Now the goal here is to make Fallout 3 as stable and polished as possible, without losing the original's vibe. So I don't want any super over-the-top visual overhauls or ENBs or reshades here. I want something that's clean and simple. And there's nothing wrong with doing that, by the way. If you want to make the game crazy looking, then by all means do it. But for this video, we're going to stick to trying to make it look as original as we can, whilst being updated to the modern era. With every mod making sure that I can get the most smooth modern gaming feel. That's where the Begin Again mod list comes in, because this one, from the mod list that I could find for this video, focuses its entire attention to the gameplay feel of the later Fallout titles like 4, whilst also being really careful to preserve what made 3 unique. Before we get into what this changes though, it's important to note that this mod list is for TTW, or Tales of Two Wastelands. TTW, in its most simplest explanation possible, is just taking Fallout 3 and cramming it into the New Vegas engine. And I'm sure the devs are probably thrilled to hear a YouTuber simplify 3 to 4 years of what they have worked extremely hard on into a single sentence, but it's in the name of saving time. This project is incredible, don't get me wrong. The fact that this project took a dying game and basically brought it back to life by putting it in this newer engine is a godsend to preserving games as a whole. This does mean that you need to own both Fallout 3 and New Vegas for this to work, but both of them could be picked up extremely cheap nowadays. New Vegas' engine is a lot more updated and modified to make it more stable in a lot of ways, so this alone is going to iron out a lot of the issues that Fallout 3 has. It also does mean that you get to play Fallout 3 and New Vegas in the same playthrough. We aren't going to touch on New Vegas at all in this video as the focus is on 3, but since we can't rip it out of the mod list, then it's just there if you want to play it after you finish your playthrough of 3. First impressions of the mod list, you can instantly feel how everything just feels so much more smoother now. But since there was a lot of modern features that were added by this, I actually couldn't tell what was changed from the original. So to jog both of our memories on what's different here, let's go through what this mod actually adds and changes. Whenever I think back on this game and try to think of anything that was particularly bad, the gunplay is definitely the thing that stands out the most. For example, you can't aim down sights, there's no proper sprinting with your weapon, and also the biggest one, all of your shots are tied to the character's skill level. So missing a point blank shot is all too common. On the topic of guns, there's actually recoil now that you have to compensate for when you shoot, as well as something that I think is really genius in that your weapons now sway depending on how proficient your character is with that certain weapon type. You also cannot sprint with heavier weapons unless you have the strength for it. I think that these additions really add to the RPG nature of the game. I'd rather have weapon sway and recoil tied to my character than my actual bullets. Now VATs are still in the game of course, but you're not going to rely on them as much as you did in the original game, and I feel overall that is an improvement. Some other bits that are here but are not in the original is plant harvesting and crafting, which was kind of surprising to me given how commonplace they are later on in the series. There's also so many quality of life tweaks to the questing and exploration experience that comes from the UI. Not only does the entire UI just look way more sharp and modern now, but it also disappears when it's not needed to improve immersion. It's also just way more helpful now as it borrows from more modern game design, like for example having markers showing up in the game world rather than just on your compass. The world map is also easier to navigate, and it's a lot more clearer thanks to the improved map textures. The crosshairs have been changed here, as well as the sneaking indicators. They now show you how hidden you are from each NPC, and now when enemies throw grenades, there's an icon on the grenade itself to make sure that you don't randomly get blown up. Lastly, the most notable gameplay changes are the addition of many new animations for when you pick up items or do actions like using a stim pack. The overall world in this mod list is a whole lot more lively, with mods to enhance the weather and lighting system. This does, however, get rid of the green tint from the original game, but I do have to excuse the decision on this because, like we said, this game has both Fallout 3 and New Vegas in it, so by removing any tint, you don't get a green New Vegas or a yellow Fallout 3. I think this is probably the best solution that I could come up with as well to solve this issue, and also the cleaner look does look really nice, I have to admit. Now if you desperately want the green tint back, you can add it back through something like Reshade. I came up with this simple setup of just adding Technicolor to add back some of the green, alongside lowering the vibrance with vibrancy. Also, the menus are by default yellow, so in the display options there is a Fallout 3 preset for every single option. Interiors are also affected by the lighting, so overall they have really nice contrast between the dark and light areas, making everything a bit more lively and way less flat compared to the original. There's new textures for basically everything in the game, and besides the world textures looking really good, I thought that the NPCs looked way better than the original. They just look way more natural and more human-like. This is basically how I remember the game looking, if that makes sense. Like, if I went back to play the Xbox 360 version, I'd realize how crisper it all looks with this mod list installed. Now before we go any further into the mod list, I just want to talk quickly about today's sponsor, Instant Gaming. Instant Gaming is basically your one-stop shop for thousands of games all at great prices. For example, if you do not own Fallout 3 and New Vegas and you want to try this mod list, then it's on here ridiculously cheap. There are thousands of games, both old and new, and what's best about Instant Gaming is that all of their keys are sourced directly by them themselves. So this is not a marketplace key site. Everything is going to be delivered super quick, and you're also never going to get a key that does not work. I know this from personal experience. I've been buying games on this platform since 2018 with not a single issue. And a big thing that matters to me the most about using a platform like this is the user experience. And the user experience here on Instant Gaming is amazing. It's just so simple and easy to use, and it also just gets out of the way. You buy a game, redeem the key, download it, and play the game. If you're interested, use my link in the description to save yourself some money on great games, whilst also supporting the channel. Hopefully this all sounds good to you, but it's no worth if you don't know how to actually get it installed and working properly. So the Nexus page for the mod list I'm going to be linking down below, which has an excellent written tutorial that will guide you through everything. It's very well written with a lot of good practices like avoiding Windows protected folders for the install. All in all, it took me about 30 minutes to use this written tutorial and get the mod list installed. It's worth pointing out though that 15 minutes of that time was spent just downloading all of the mods that this comes with. The whole thing boils down to getting Wabbajack, clicking install on the mod list, getting TTW, pointing the mod list to TTW's files, and then you're done. There are a few extra bits though that are worth noting that I just want to go over. For example, this mod uses DXVK. This program is brought up quite a lot here on the channel because it fixes any stutters or performance issues that older games have on modern GPUs. If you're on an AMD GPU, you can basically skip what I'm about to talk about here, but if you're on an Nvidia GPU like me, or if you're on a laptop as well, you're going to need to do an extra step here. You got to download a pre-made Nvidia driver profile from the link below. If you don't already have Nvidia Profile Inspector installed, you need to get that as well. You open the inspector and you click this little button to import the profile. Then just apply changes and quit out. You'll then want to lock the FPS to whatever you can achieve. Now for the most part, what I've read online is that you can actually go above 60 with little to no issues. But if you want to play it safe, then just lock it to 60. I used Special K here to do this and I locked it to 120. You don't have to use Special K though, you can use whatever you want, all of them should work fine. Now it's probably worth noting that after all of this, I had exactly 0 crashes whilst playing this, and that is genuinely astonishing for this game. If you've ever tried to run Fallout 3 in recent years, you would know how something as simple as this is a great achievement. Also, being able to Alt-Tab, as simple as it sounds, is amazing. The original would take forever to do it, and then 9 times out of 10 it would just crash. I've mentioned this slightly, but I think it's really important to reiterate this point. What this mod list has basically done is create what we remember Fallout 3 being, not the one that actually existed. And I think that is extremely powerful. When you come back to play these games with rose-tinted glasses or nostalgia, you end up kind of being blindsided on how old the games were and all of the jank that comes with it. Now, if you're new here or you just haven't subscribed, then this is the kind of thing that this channel is all about. Preserving older games by renewing them on PC however we can. So if that sounds like your kind of thing, then maybe consider subscribing. Also, massive shout out to the Patreons. Patreon is by far the best way to support the content that I make here on the channel, and you can join from just £1 a month. If seeing Fallout 3 all new and shiny was cool to you, then how about you watch me do the same thing for Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic on the left, or try to fix some of the issues with the Oblivion remaster on the right. See you over there.